Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak. Of Al-Ma'idah Surah, whoever saved a life, it would be as if he saved the life of all mankind.
Islam can teach us today a way of understanding and living in the world which Christianity itself is the poorer for having lost. At the heart of Islam is its preservation of an integral view of the universe.
Lately, folks in England have been buzzing over some surprising news connecting King Charles III with Islam. The whole thing kicked off after a Ramadan iftar event was held at Windsor Castle, a royal palace that, for over 1,000 years, had never hosted anything related to the Muslim community. But this year, during Ramadan, Windsor Castle made history by opening its doors for a communal iftar for the very first time. What caught everyone even more off guard was the sound of the call to prayer, azan, echoing inside the castle, creating quite the buzz and grabbing a lot of attention from people all over England.
Allahu Akbar, Allah, Hayya ala al-falah.
It's a lot of hard work. I feel the King is an excellent ambassador for this cause, and he's committed to community cohesion, to welcoming community of communities, celebrating different faith groups, and also we're incredibly grateful for his support towards the British Muslim community.
Indeed, His Majesty the King has been championing religious diversity and indeed encouraging interfaith conversations for many, many years. So this really is just a continuation of that here this evening.
There have been a bunch of different reactions to this. Some people see it as a sign of England's openness and tolerance toward religious diversity. But on the flip side, quite a few folks have criticized the event, calling it a kind of Islamization of the British monarchy. One YouTube video even showed someone expressing disappointment that Christians didn't get to celebrate Easter at Windsor Castle, while Muslims were allowed to hold a Ramadan iftar there. And there are plenty of people accusing King Charles III of secretly converting to Islam.
Is King Charles a Muslim? Already you're thinking that is a wild and preposterous claim, an absolute crackpot conspiracy theory.
This issue kept growing, especially when people found out that King Charles III is known to have a close connection with Islam. He often quotes Quran verses in his speeches and shows a deep interest in Islamic values. His strong ties with several Muslim countries, especially Turkey, even sparked rumors that he secretly converted to Islam. Although there's never been any proof of that, Charles III has definitely shown appreciation for Islam, which has got a lot of people wondering what he really thinks about the religion. Not only that, King Charles III is also known for having a deep knowledge of Islam. In fact, his understanding of Islamic teachings might be even broader than a lot of Muslims around the world who just inherited the religion from their ancestors. In his famous 1996 speech, A Sense of the Sacred, Building Bridges Between Islam and the West, Charles said that understanding Islam's view on the order of nature could help the West rethink how they manage the environment and natural resources. To him, Islam teaches that nature has limits set by God, and humans shouldn't go beyond those boundaries. King Charles III also really admires the rich spiritual teachings and wisdom in Islam, which he thinks the Western world often overlooks because it's too focused on material things. He reminds us that people can't live alone without paying attention to the complex balance of all creation. Charles even appreciates the urban planning legacy from Islamic civilization, like the irrigation systems in Spain that have been around for over 1,200 years. He sees this as proof that Islam values long-term planning in harmony with nature, instead of just chasing quick economic gains. His respect for Islam even shows up in the design of his garden at his home in Gloucestershire, which is inspired by Islamic traditions and features plants mentioned in the Quran. Charles III's open and genuine appreciation for Islam shows that England today isn't just accepting religious diversity, but is really trying to understand it on a deeper level. Signs of Islam's rising presence in England became pretty clear when one of the most iconic symbols of British nobility, Windsor Castle, was used for a Muslim iftar, breaking of the fast event. For the first time in history, the sounds of Ramadan prayers and the call to prayer echoed inside the Grand Palace. This historic event didn't just surprise people, it raised a lot of questions too. The iftar at Windsor Castle caused quite a stir in England, because this place isn't just a beautiful old building. Windsor Castle is one of the most iconic symbols of British nobility, standing strong for over 1,000 years and witnessing many important moments that shaped the country's history and identity. The castle hosts all kinds of official state ceremonies, royal events, and major gatherings filled with tradition and grandeur. It represents the strength, glory, and pride of the British monarchy, an institution that seems unshakable despite centuries of change. Windsor Castle is like a fortress that protects the traditions and values held dear by the royal family. For many people in England who really value the monarchy's traditions, Windsor Castle isn't just a grand building. It's a symbol of the nation's identity. So, for some folks, having Islam present in such a sacred place feels like a threat to the traditions they've always held dear.
I absolutely wanted to be here for today, for this event, and to have the first of these events here in Westminster Hall is really, really fantastic.
Actually, this wasn't the only time something like this happened. Not too long ago, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer made history by hosting an iftar, breaking fast, event at the House of Commons. The event was attended by many important figures from the Muslim community in England, and Starmer also joined the iftar gathering at Westminster Hall. In his speech, he stressed the importance of unity, justice, and the huge contributions Muslims make to building the country.
Come together in charity and service and welcome people of all faiths and none for an iftar.
And that's not all. Way before this, we've probably already heard about the call to prayer echoing through London at Tower Bridge, one of the city's most iconic landmarks. And maybe the most surprising moment of all, there was actually a time when the azan was recited inside a church during a Christian religious event. But what really caught people off guard was the reaction. Instead of being bothered, the congregation responded in a totally unexpected way. They were moved and even expressed admiration for the beautiful call to prayer sung by Hassan Rasul.
That is the most astonishing voice I've ever heard in my life. And I've seen the call to prayer in 5 different countries, and that was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life, honestly. So can I get a selfie with you? So
Sure.
Oh, I loved you.
Sorry, hello.
Hello, sir. I'm sorry. You were wonderful. You lifted the whole. Yes.
Oh, wow. That's very kind
When
of
you
you.
went up there, you just lifted the whole.
Well, our spirits, at least our spirits were lifted. A divine call.
Now let's get into something really interesting. Right now, there are over 1,800 mosques all across the UK, spread throughout major cities like London, Birmingham, and Manchester. These mosques aren't just places of worship, they also serve as community hubs for social, educational, and cultural activities that help strengthen Muslim identity in British society. On top of that, there are more than 80 Sharia courts and 50 Sharia councils operating in different parts of the country. They provide Islamic-based legal services for things like marriage, divorce, inheritance, and mediation. The existence of these institutions shows how Islamic values are being accommodated within the UK's legal system, and it's a clear sign that Islam's influence is continuing to grow and take root in British society. Big changes are also happening in the political world. More and more Muslim politicians are taking on strategic roles in the UK. Their presence not only gives a voice to the Muslim community, but also shows that British society is becoming more accepting of religious diversity. One major milestone happened in 2024 when Naz Shah, a Muslim politician, made history by taking her oath of office using the Quran instead of the Bible. That moment was a powerful symbol for the Muslim community, showing that religious identity can go hand in hand with public service in an inclusive government system. And it's not just Parliament. Some of the UK's biggest cities now have Muslim mayors, too. Sadiq Khan continues to serve as the mayor of London, Parvez Akhtar is the mayor of Blackburn, and Lubna Arshad is leading Oxford. It's a strong sign of growing representation and inclusion in local government. The rise of Muslim leaders in the UK isn't just inspiring for young British Muslims. It's also solid proof that diversity can lead to real, positive change in public policy and services. Their growing influence in politics shows how far the Muslim community has come in pushing for equality, integration, and meaningful contributions to British society as a whole. New policies that better reflect the needs of Muslim communities are starting to roll out. Islamic holidays are beginning to be officially recognized, Sharia-compliant financial services are expanding, and multicultural initiatives are getting more funding than ever before. This shift in leadership is directly changing policy priorities and having a real impact on everyday life in the UK. At the same time, more Muslim communities across the country are getting state support, whether it's through public housing, welfare benefits, or other government assistance. Life is also changing when it comes to religion. The Adhan, call to prayer, once heard only near mosques, is now becoming part of daily life in some areas. This all makes sense, given that the Muslim population in the UK has grown to around 3.9 million people, roughly 6.5% of the total population. And with that growth comes an increase in mosques popping up across major cities. Meanwhile, some Christian churches have started losing members and are even being forced to shut down because they just don't have enough people attending anymore. For example, St. Peter's Church in Brighton and St. Michael's in London both had to close their doors after a big drop in congregation numbers. At one point, like during the end of Ramadan, thousands, maybe even millions, of people flood the streets of London to celebrate Eid al-Fitr. In this video, you can see crowds filling the sidewalks and roads in one part of London. Some might doubt that this really happens in London, but if you look closely, there's no question, it's definitely London. You can spot the types of cars driving by, the typical UK license plates, prices on signs showing the British pound symbol, and even the street signs that say Stratford via West Ham Park, which is a well-known area in London. This scene is solid proof of how big and vibrant the Muslim community is in the UK, especially in big cities like London. It shows how Islam has become a part of everyday life in an increasingly diverse England. But for some Brits, sites like this stir up worries that their original traditions and culture are slowly being replaced. So, is this a threat to the national identity? Or is it proof that England has successfully become a country that's open and respectful of different cultures? For Muslims, these changes are great news. It shows they can live better lives in the UK without having to hide or downplay their beliefs. They hope to keep making positive contributions to society, living peacefully side by side with others, and showing respect for one another. For them, this is solid proof that Islam is welcomed and accepted in an open, diverse England that values all kinds of differences.